Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Coffee Talk Live after a brief hiatus, because that's what talk shows do, right? I am back and ready to have a really awesome conversation. I am Connie Pastorius, the woman in charge here at Strong as a Mother, Happy and Healthy Living, which is the Facebook group for moms to feel heard and supported so they can raise happy and healthy babies while living happy and healthy lives. I'm also the owner of Pastorius Fitness, which is online coaching for moms who are ready to get stronger, gain energy, and live their best life possible. So do me a favor, since this is your group, if you are watching this live, drop a 1 or a good morning. And if you're catching the replay, put a 2 or a replay in the comments. Either way, I want to hear your voices in this conversation. So throughout the talk, if you have questions, we will get to them. Just put them in the comments. Or if you have questions later, we can refer back and make sure that we take care of you. So without further ado, let's get to my guest today. She is a fellow yoga instructor and the owner of Sacred Space Astoria, a yoga studio that offers yoga and wellness services from babies to seniors and everything in between. So please put your hands together without spilling your coffee for my guest, Kim Alexandrescu. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. You are my first guest back after taking a brief break, but like I was talking to you behind the scenes a little bit, this has been such a long time coming. And honestly, I love having conversations with fellow yogis because it's just like a different language and a different way of thinking. And it's such a delight to have you on the show. So hello.
Thank you. I'm excited. Yeah, it's nice to finally get some time to chat.
Yeah, and we have so much cool stuff to talk about, but the first things first, what's in your cup today, Kim?
I have mint tea with a little bit of sugar, and it's still hot, so I can't drink it yet.
That sounds like a Christmas drink to me. That sounds really nice. Is that your usual?
I don't drink caffeine, or I try to stay away from it as much as possible. So, yeah. Sometimes I joke, I feel like I'm the only caffeinated person or uncaffeinated person in the world.
It's probably better that way. I just jokingly posted the other day that like my anxiety is creeping up because I'm 3 weeks away from the New York City Marathon, but I'm still like drinking my coffee, shaking. I can't stop myself, but it's okay. That's really cool. I have a couple tea drinkers that have come on the show, and I love talking about the different morning routines because I think it's also important that people know that the world isn't entirely caffeinated. So thank you for...
I do my best. Like, it's not always easy because I do also love pop. I'm from the Midwest, soda. But so it's, I don't know, my usual is actually a cup of ice water. I have like a big mug of ice water that I drink. I started that in college, and that's how I wake up in the mornings.
So I'm from Pittsburgh, and we also call it pop. Where are you from?
I'm from outside of Detroit.
Ah, okay. So there's a nice little chunk of the country that still calls it pop, but when people hear us say it, they probably think we're crazy, right?
My native New Yorker kids are like, "Ma, it's soda." I'm like, no, it's pop.
Like, go keep drinking your water ice or water ice or whatever that's
while you stand online.
Yeah. That one actually makes sense to me, and I've adopted it because you're literally like on a line, and then I'm like, America Online, like, does that have something to do with it? I don't know. That's my squirrel brain just thinking. Let's talk. So this was a really cool conversation that we decided to discuss today. You felt that there is a great need for women to start not just taking care of themselves, but creating a network of support to help them stop treading water, which is a phrase that has come up so often. Treading water, feeling like you're drowning,
sinking,
can't get your head above water. Like, these are really heavy feelings that people are just sitting with every single day, and they're like, I feel like even if somebody tells me that I should practice self-care, like that's just another thing that I'm supposed to do. So, okay, I guess I'll just sit in the bathtub and like order my groceries on my phone while I'm multitasking like 11 other things. So, first, tell me a little bit about why this seemed really like a really important conversation to have today.
Um, I mean, I can speak from the professional side and the personal side. The studio that I own opened 8 weeks before the pandemic, and so we've had a very different start than I thought we would. And it got to the point over the summer. What was happening is that my husband was working, and either my husband was working and I had the kids, or I was working and he had the kids. So we had no help until the summer, and finally it was just kind of like we can't keep doing this. So I realized that the only way that I was going to get help was if I put things in place for me to get help. I was running the studio by myself, we were running our household by ourselves, and it was just, we're wiped. We're still wiped. We've gotten a little help, but we're still wiped. But it feels like we're in the process of shifting out of it. Professionally, the parents haven't returned to the studio. They're not coming in for classes. And I know there were a number pre-pandemic in the short term that we were open. There were a number who were coming in, and that was like a good release for their stress, for someone to get out of the house, and they're not back yet. So, and talking to friends that I know that are both yogis and parents, and they're like, we're not out from underneath it yet, which I also understand.
Yeah, I totally understand. Before the pandemic, it was just like that 90 minutes that parents were like, all right, the kids are home, they're fed, the other parent has them or whatever, like I can squeeze this one little bit into my life as like a yoga class or whatever it was that was like their routine and their normal thing. And once lockdown happened, they simultaneously had like a ton of time at home and also no time at home at all. And now that we're still not 100% confident that kids aren't gonna get taken out of school again, so many complications with just logistics and also finances. So really feeling like, oh my God, can I afford luxury items like a $20 yoga class or a $2,000 Peloton or something in the middle of those things? So what we are approaching is this point where women know, we know that we need to take care of ourselves, that we need help, but what had classically worked in the past doesn't work now, or the things that were just barely working in the past aren't working anymore. So what are your thoughts on
if we could even get
yeah, so you mentioned that like the term self-care was one of those, like, I freaking hate that word. Like how for mine, I was telling you before, but like my buzzwords that I really think have been overused and watered down is mindfulness, gratitude, and core. If the word core was wiped from the face of the earth, I would be like the happiest fitness coach ever. But anyways, back to you. Self-care. What is it that you feel like women get wrong, or that why has that word been watered down so much recently?
So I think, I mean, I use the term, right? Like that's for a while I was saying that like I teach people self-care, but I don't teach it in the same way that I think a lot of like the colloquial use of it is. I think that there's a lot of different ways that self-care can look. It doesn't have to be this, you're going to go for a manicure and it's going to look like this. Sometimes it is absolutely self-care. And sometimes, opting that it doesn't matter how your nails look is also self-care. So it's more like self-compassion and taking care of yourself in the way that is compassionate towards you versus like, this is a box that you need to check off. And for me, self-care looks different every single day. It's not, what I need every day changes. Like I'm not someone who can do like a 30-day challenge. Like that's not for me because I don't need the same thing every day. Yesterday, I was like, I'm going to rest. I had slipped and hurt my hip. So I was like, okay, I'm going to rest all day tomorrow. And then I had this like burst of energy and all I wanted to do was clean. So I was like, well, the house is kind of filthy. I'll feel better if I clean. And then I ended up going to bed at 8 o'clock. So it was like, I had this idea that this is what self-care looks like. I'm going to rest today. In actuality, it was like getting some calm and peace in the house. And then the rest came. And the whole way through, it was a fight. And I think that there's this idea that like self-care is easy, but it's a constant choice that you're making.
Yeah. And you brought up like sometimes it's a manicure and sometimes it's not giving a shit that you need a manicure. And
Right.
I love that you brought that up because kind of like diet culture or exercise culture, there's this overarching assumption of what self-care is. And then there's the group of people who are like, no, a manicure isn't self-care. You have to dig deep and understand what's like causing all the problems in your life. And then women are just like guilted or they feel like shit because they're like, oh man, I thought I was like onto something here with getting my weekly manicures. And now you're telling me that that's not good enough. So like feeling like there's always an argument against whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish with self-care, but understanding that it changes and there's different levels of it
Yep.
from one day to another, from one dynamic to another. So sometimes it is going and sitting and taking a bath, but sometimes it's also scrubbing the tile above the bathtub because it's
You can enjoy your bath.
yeah. So we're wandering into this self-care land, this thing that we feel like we need to do, but we already do so much. How I want to start talking now about creating this care team. You said you brought up that word, I think, that phrase, and I think that's a really great way to look at it. So tell us a little bit about what you think creating a care team looks like and why it's important to have more than one kind of aspect or element to your self-care.
So, and I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, is that we've had a hell of a year, right? I had 3 kids. I had a baby in the pandemic. And so we were either solo parenting or I was working 6 days a week, and it was nuts, right? Everyone's had their own brand of wildness in this time. And it got to the point where I was like, I can't keep doing this. I absolutely can't keep doing this. And something has to give. And so I was finding like through like some journaling and such that I would do, like I would do morning pages. Are you familiar with that from Julia Cameron?
No, tell me more.
It's every day. You're supposed to write for up to 3 pages. About once a week, I write about 1 page, and it's just a free form of writing. So you just write whatever's on your mind. And it's been a super good tool for me with anxiety. So on days where like I can't kind of settle, I now have to put like my planner next to me so that I'm journaling. I'm journaling, and then I write the things down that I remember that I have to do, and I can go back to the journaling. It's not a creative form in any way, shape. But what it is that I would write, and then I would find I was writing the same things over and over again, and it would get to the core of like what it was that I really needed. And then once I know what I need, then I'll take care of it. Sometimes it takes a while, and I think that's part of this conversation too, is figuring out what you actually need. And so I just started recognizing like I need help. I was writing that I need help with this. I need help with this. I need help with this. And so it was really just recognizing we were doing this all alone. We were never designed to do this all alone. A lot of people in New York don't have family around. So there's no one to lean on in these types of things. I think different areas have that a little bit differently than a lot of New York transplants do. And so to some extent we had to hire some help, and that was terrifying, right? I've got a business that's not profitable yet. And we've never had to pay for childcare before because I've been home. So there were all these different balances at play. And one of the things that started coming forward, I was exhausted all the time. So it was just like, I had to start realizing I have to ask for help so I can get some more sleep, or I have to ask for help in all these different ways. And so slowly I started realizing if I'm going to keep going at this pace, which I don't want to do, but even to slow down at this pace, I have to get some other people involved. I had pain from the birth that still hadn't resolved. So it was every day I was in pain. And that became the first thing. Like, I have to get help so I can go get some pelvic floor PT, but I have to have a babysitter so that way I can get this. And so it all just kind of started trickling. And I think that would be one thing that I would say is key. If you're in any type of pain, and there are a lot of people in pain from the pandemic and all the changes in our lives and the stress. A lot of people underscore this or miss the stress being the impact of our pain. But if you're in any type of pain, tackling that first is crucial, because that's going to give you so much more energy. You're going to feel you feel so much better. And then you have more emotional strength to do things too. So I started recognizing that the pelvic floor therapist, she's definitely part of my care team. I had some body work done that, like I would feel great for a week or two after that. I was seeing a chiropractor that our insurance covered who does more, not adjustments, but like more natural energy work, but he doesn't call it that. My therapist, like I didn't miss a therapy session throughout all of this because that was key to me. And then there were smaller things around the house, like my kids have picked up what they're doing. We have Friday afternoons. It's terrible in my house because it's laundry day, but the kids had to start having some responsibilities and getting involved in things because we have a baby now. And so we all have to chip in. We started ordering the groceries during the pandemic, and that's something that I don't feel comfortable going to the store yet with the baby. And so we're still ordering our groceries. So there's all these different things that in some ways are costing more, but then in other ways we're combating it in other places too. Because it doesn't have to be, I don't have the money for this, because you definitely run into that. And then I think it's also worth looking into, do you not have the money or do you not want to spend the money on yourself?
Yeah, you came right to a really important point that I wanted to talk about was the money and our perception of I can't afford, because of our belief that we don't, a lot of people have a belief like I don't deserve to have money spent on me, or I don't deserve to take our family money, whatever's in the bank account or whatever, and spend it on something for me. I think one of the really great things that I had worked on leading up to the pandemic, I'm on 10 years with married to my husband. So we've made all our mistakes a long time ago and worked through those, but figuring out and understanding our finances really, really well so that we know what kind of flexibility we have in our money. So people understanding where's your money going? And for a lot of people, that's a point of stress is, oh my God, like we have like this $200,000 salary, but somehow there's like $4,000 in our bank account at the end of the month. Like there's something missing, something's not lining up. And taking that little bit of energy that you have, you talked about starting with, pain, whatever pain you have or going through. And if stress is causing you pain and that stress is coming from a financial standpoint, starting to take a look at where's my money going? What am I spending money on that I don't realize, like the extra ordering in or picking up coffees whenever you pick up your kids. Around here, you can't get a drink for less than $4 or $5. So that adds up. And seeing like, oh snap, like I am spending money on like leggings that just end up taking up space in my house, which ends up causing clutter, which ends up making me even more stressed out. So where can you start and understand like, okay, if I stop buying clothes for a month, how much money do I have? And then if you get to that point where you're comfortable with your money and you're like, oh, I could create a budget, create that $200, create that $400, whatever it takes, and then allocate it. All right, I can pay for physical therapy for these number of sessions. I can pay to have somebody clean my house for me, and utilizing your money in a way that actually helps you now. Because let's not even think about retirement for a minute, because that part of our life is so far away for a lot of us that if we don't take care of our health now, down the road's not going to even matter, right? So yeah, you brought up the financial part of this, which is really important thing to understand, that you have to believe that you're worth it before you're going to be willing to pay money.
We are a little bit on the opposite end of the spectrum, that there can be too much foresight, like we're planning too far in advance, where we need to focus in on the immediate needs. And that it's definitely, we are going on 14 years next month. So it's definitely still a work in progress too. There was a hard discussions around having childcare. Mm-hmm. I was home for the first two. So paying for childcare isn't something that we're used to, but there are also conversations about like, I had given up my work for that. Right. One thing that I think really changed a lot in this realm is my husband took a paternity leave for 10 weeks for me to reopen the studio last year. And so for 10 weeks, he had the kids solo during that time because I was working all the time. I was relaunching the studio. And so that I feel like really created more of a balance that hadn't had the opportunity to be there before. he had to do it. Like there was no default mom. He had been the one that had been working, and I was the one that was usually home, and it got completely flipped. And I think that made a huge difference in things. I have to be careful now because I feel like he does too much or he's doing more, but I think we're actually just even for the first time. And it's not any slight to him. He was the one who was always working longer hours. So it's just a different balance. The other thing with the finances too is that taking a look at what you actually need, because oftentimes we tend to get overwhelmed and it's like, well, like for the PT, I need about, 5 or 6 sessions. 5 or 6 sessions is, figuring out what that number is and what that looks like and what changes you can make. And also reflecting that, if you're trying to adjust the finances and such so that we can have some more peace, maybe you are avoiding takeout. I've had to kind of like pull back a little bit on that because I found I'm only eating leftovers because I'm not home at dinner time. And so I've had like a whole thing where like I haven't had an appetite. I'm not really interested in food. And finally I realized, yeah, because I'm always reheating and eating by myself. That's not super fun to me. And so for me, part of it is to recognize like I'm not going to feel bad that I just ordered this meal to the studio so I can eat it warm and feel like me receiving takeout is something where I feel like someone has really taken care of me because they've prepared a meal for me versus me preparing it myself or reheating it. So just recognizing that what one person is saying self-care needs to look like because of their situation doesn't necessarily mean it has to be yours, and shutting off that chatter, right? The chita vriti.
Yes. It absolutely, it compares for me, what came up was what gets measured gets managed. I know somebody a lot smarter than me said that once, and it's like a famous quote, but like we're talking about measuring or seeing like what we the kind of money that we make versus what we can actually utilize in real time and not have to save or put towards bills or whatever. We also need to see where we're spending our time, right? So I've had this conversation with a client. My business operates online, so you have to be willing to at least spend a little bit of time on Facebook. And what she kept saying was like, when I open my phone, I don't want to do the check-ins, the weekly check-ins, because it feels like too much effort, too much work. And the more that we've started talking is more when we realized that when she's using Facebook on just like a normal basis, she's using it to kind of tune out and to like step away from the world. And that was a really important point to recognize, because these tools that we have at our expense, and I always say that we're in this like great experiment of like the first full generation of having this social media, this internet connection. We're going to learn all the mistakes so our kids don't have to. But recognizing that when you open that Facebook app, you have to be intentional and you have to pay attention to, am I doing this to tune out? Am I doing this to actually connect with my family? Am I doing this because it's part of a program that I'm committed to? So if you are, let's see, I don't want to get lost in my verbal vomit here, but we started paying attention to her Facebook utilization, and she's like, oh my God, you're right. I'm just killing time. I'm just ignoring my problems, ignoring whatever. So you have to take a look at what you're doing throughout your day. Cause the other question is, what if I don't have the money? What if I don't have the time? Well, where is your time? Mm-hmm. And just taking 1 cup of coffee's amount of time in your day to list out and write out, like, what am I doing with my day and my time? And is there somewhere where I can do something that helps me become the version of me that I want to be? If that makes sense. I'm only on the first cup of coffee.
That was like about 3 weeks or so ago. There's a group that I've been in for a long time, and I was like, how are you managing your time online? Because I'm getting the notifications each week about how I'm doing, and I can't seem to get it under. And also I run my business through my phone too, but I've gotten to the point where I was like, I just want to throw this thing. Like I long for just a regular phone. Right?
Me too.
I want it. Like I have like fantasies of chucking it and being done. Like I'm like, can I get a flip phone? How can I manage this? Because the studio phone rings through my phone. I'm checking emails. Like the business account app is on there. It's all of it. And with the latest update, they now have the focus button, and I had been using Do Not Disturb, but I hadn't been using it as regularly. So I've been using the Do Not Disturb, and I deleted the Facebook app because that was one that wasn't useful for me. We do a ton of social media for the studio, so I have to be on Instagram. And I set my do not disturb to earlier in the night. So that way, and there's still anxiety because like something could be going on at the studio. They're not going to get through to me. And it's also just like everybody can wait. And I think that's a big thing that like everybody can wait. I can take a pause. You can take a pause. Like they can wait. And we're in this culture of immediacy now because of all of this. And you know, I say that for all small business owners out there and all for people interacting with small businesses, we're not Amazon, right? Like it takes a while. There's a person behind there. And it then becomes an act of mindfulness, right? Like if your anxiety is pushing you to get a response, regardless of what it is, pull back. Like when I was having the tech trouble coming into this meeting, right? Like 2 minutes before we're supposed to go, my computer decided it had to do an update. And I said, you can fight this, or you can just take some rest and choose it as a point of it. You're going to relax now because there is nothing you can do. It is going to reboot. And so there's this constant, for me, making the choice, like finding that one of my favorite teachers says, find a place of rest in the middle of things. So that means like taking your cup of coffee and enjoying it. Or when I heat something up in the microwave, I do a down dog at the countertop just to stretch my back a little, if that's what I need. Taking these moments where I can fight this and try to hurry it or rush it, or I can embrace like, I'm here right now. I can't do anything else right now. So I might as well just chill out and relax for a minute.
Yeah. That was really, that really was a good point. And I feel like if anybody is listening who has had this similar, like, I want to chuck this effing thing out the window, like, tell us if you did. I was actually thinking back to like when I was 17 and I had my like second phone, because the first one was like a Virgin Mobile, add minutes per whatever.
Right.
And then the Motorola Razr and the Crazy, there's like a Crazer, or there's like a flat version, like a bar phone version.
Yeah.
And I looked up online. I was like, what if I could get one of these? And they're like $30 on eBay. And I was like, I could actually have a phone that's just a freaking phone. And because I was looking at it and I always like, right now I have a missed call on my phone because I never have the ring on.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a business that's different, but for me, it's like, if you need to talk to me, it's through text or email or messenger. So the last thing that I'm actually using this thing for is its first intended use is a phone. So
I find turning off the ringer helps a lot. And then my husband's always like, your ringer was off. And I was like, I get a million texts and then there's complaints that the ringer is going off or I turn it off. Again, we can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And to go back to the phone and the time, something that's very important to me is like self-study and reading. And I'm not really a TV person, though I have been lately because it's like the only place I can kind of shut off these past couple of weeks. But I was on my phone and I was just scrolling at night. And so it was like, I've got to put the phone down and go back to reading, or I've got to go put the phone down and just go to bed, right? It also helped. We got a new bed. Speaking in the theme of pain, we were both waking up very uncomfortable. And so we ended up getting a new bed, which has like transformed everything. And that was the thing that for like, I don't know, at least 2 years, we've been like, we got to get a new mattress. We got to get a new mattress. And finally we got tired of thinking about it and just did it because we were both in pain.
Yeah. That's one of the things. One of my clients was having the same problem. We you know, when I work with somebody, before we even talk about the exercises, I ask, how's your sleep? Are you staying hydrated? Are you stressed? So when we were talking about like, oh, I still just can't get a good night's sleep, like my mattress is like older than my college degree, and like I just asked her, like, is it in your budget? Like, have you guys been waiting or saving to buy a new bed? And then they finally did buy it, and they're like, oh my God, Connie, like, why did I wait so long? Because what is it? You spend like 50% of your life sleeping, so you might as well give it you know, something nice. Because before you even start thinking about exercise, before you even start thinking about, you know, cooking a meal in the kitchen, like, you know, doing like nutrition, you know, work and stuff, like you gotta sleep. You gotta have good sleep, or else everything is going to be out of whack. So you were talking, so you said like buying a mattress, that's a really good investment for helping your stress, helping your energy levels. One of the best things that I did over lockdown was get mental help. And I've talked very publicly about this, is with Brightside, who my husband actually started working for during lockdown, is a company that combines a psychiatric medication prescription and monitoring with talk therapy, with virtual therapy. So this was not covered under the insurance. A lot of insurances don't cover online mental health they are. They're starting to, which is really great. But it was a cost that was like, if I don't, like, I can feel something is chemically not right in my body, in my head. I shouldn't be this tired all the time. I shouldn't be this hyper responsive to like my daughter screaming or a problem with my computer. Like I have also wanted to chuck technology of all sizes out the window because of how stressed out I get. But deciding like I need to try a different route. Like I can't meditate myself better. I can't just sit in child's pose until I feel better. Like for me, there was a point where, and I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher, like that's not enough for me. So getting that help and at least trying, right? For a lot of people, they feel like going to medication is a sign of weakness or failure. Like I can't manage this myself. And I felt that way for a long time, being a personal trainer and someone who's like, exercise makes you happy. But then I felt it and I experienced it myself. And once I recognized like, I can't change how the serotonin ekes out of my brain and different parts of my body. And I know for a lot of people, that's not necessarily the solution, but at least recognizing that there are different options out there that you can at least try, right?
I think the important thing to realize and recognize, I guess I should say, is that it was during the pandemic. We are going through such a turning point. And you don't know how many people I have come in the door who say like, well, I have this pain and, it's because I've been sitting to teach. It's like, no, but it's a global pandemic. Like, it's not that you've been sitting to teach. It's that you've been a virtual teacher that you were never intending to do during one of the most stressful points of our life to date, endlessly, right? There's a lack of recognition about, one, we're still in a pandemic, right? We're still having to make calculated decisions. We're definitely not back to the normal routine of things, even though we're kind of moving towards that, but we're also not really prepared. And we're in this transition, which is, the only word I can come with is like slowly killing us all, right? There was definitely like a dip recently, and the studio attendance had peaked, and then it definitely dipped. And all my conversations were like, I'm exhausted. You and I were emailing during that time. It was like, I'm underwater. That's where the language started coming in, that everyone was burnt out. And so now I'm the one with the word vomit.
No, go, keep going. Great.
I lost my train. But it's just this idea that like, you got to remember the conditions you're living in, right? Even though we're more used to it now, we're still not what we're used to. And we're not going back to what we're used to, right? And there's also not good language for this. Like, I'm avoiding saying back to normal, right? Because what is that even? We're almost 2 years into this. But this recognition of, this is hard. If this is the point at which you had to get on meds, yes. Right? Like if this is the point, we're watching all these different structures around us kind of collapse, and the recognition of all the different ways that like we're not being served in this country. And so really putting it into perspective, and you don't want to harp that there's a pandemic going on, right? Because people don't want to talk about it, but also the only way to get through it is to talk about it. So I don't know. I don't know. I haven't found that balance, especially like from communicating from the business standpoint of, continually remembering, hey, this is extraordinary conditions. And if you're having an extraordinary response that you've never had before, yes. Yes.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer here as long as you're not continuing to like destroy yourself. If you can throw everything at the wall that you have to within healthy limits. So speaking of limits, one thing I wanted to bring up was creating boundaries. So we're creating our care team, right? But one thing that we don't want to do is pile onto someone else's problems or, overstep our boundaries. So one of the things that I talked with my cousin, who's a social worker, we're a great bounce back and forth kind of team, is whenever you have, say, like your care team is a sibling that you really trust, that, understands that family aspect of your life, or a cousin or a friend, if that's the person that you need to go to, or even your partner, asking in advance, like, do I have consent to vent? It's wordy, but do I have permission? Like, are you in a good place for me to tell you what's going on in my life? Because you can pick up the phone and you can call your best friend and be like, listen, I got A, B, and C going on, XYZ happened, and the baby just threw up all over dinner. Like, you could just start and go, but not realize that they're already having a shit day. So even though they want to help, they're still going to, especially if they're that kind of person like me. Like I could be crying in the bathtub and my friend could call and be like, "Oh my God, Connie, this is all happening." And I'd just be like, "Keep going. I'm listening." Yeah, you poor thing. But just making sure that like you have permission and you have this like safe and healthy dynamic with your support team that's like, is now a good time? Is that, do you feel that? Do you have people in your life like that?
Absolutely. Can you hear this? I might have to move.
No, you're fine. The background noise reduction on Zoom is
Excellent.
excellent.
Okay. Somebody's drilling outside the window. Um, I think it goes both ways, because I think there's people who don't want to dump and won't make that phone call because they're afraid of that situation. And I think there's people that don't take that into consideration. So I think it goes both ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what you said was key is, just having a person that you can call, or maybe starting to create that relationship. Hey, I need 5 minutes. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and then you got to stick to it. And you do the verbal dump. And then maybe at the end of that 5 minutes, you say, okay, now it's your 5 minutes, and you don't talk. I think that's the thing that can be problematic too. And some of my training is in contemplative care and deep listening. And what I have noticed in friend groups and women in general is that they don't listen to each other, right? It's like it becomes this kind of like talking over each other. Like I interrupted you a few times through here, and because of the whole like Zoom thing, and I'm very, but I'm very aware of it, because that's, culturally a little bit how women interact at this point, at least in that I've noticed. And so having 5 minutes, like this is why we like therapy, right? It's having this time where someone is only devoted to you is great. And then also the flip side, where you can often feel really full after hearing someone else for 5 minutes, because you're hearing yourself reflected back in you.
Yeah.
And this idea of deep listening and then forming connection, which is really coming full circle, what we're looking for in the care team, right? We've all been isolated in some way through this time, especially if you've been doing everything yourself. And so when you're forming this connection, whether you're receiving, giving, or doing both at the same time, you're connected, and that's what fuels most of us. Really, it's what fuels humans, but let's say most of us. Not to assume.
Yeah, I like that you brought up that it does go both ways, where you're like, oh, I have a problem, but oh, I don't want to bother her with that. Well, ask if you can bother, or go in advance and be like, hey, do you want to be like misery buddies or bitch buddies? I don't know, whatever the thing is. But yeah, the Suffering Olympics was something that I talked with a mom way back in the beginning of the pandemic about, how there are people in your life that a lot of it's family members, because it's this one-upsmanship where you're like, oh man, like my baby threw up on the floor. Like, oh yeah, that sucks. Well, do you think that's bad? Like my kid pooped in the car. Like it's always, sometimes it feels like the other person is negating your emotions and your feelings. And this is something that's come up throughout the pandemic with like validating other people's emotions and feelings and things. So one thing that I learned a long time ago with my marriage was that my husband cannot be my one and only pillar of support, because if he's not having a great time, if he has his own problems, I can't lean on him too, because then he will suffer and then he won't be able to help me, or he'll degrade even more. So making sure that like you aren't just relying on one person, and that you have those other things and those other people. So when I started to get therapy and he started to get therapy, is this really just a conversation about therapy? Because I feel like it just kind of goes therapy in a new bed.
Therapy in a new bed and sleep.
Making sure that there's more than one person, and there's a whole like, okay, if this problem in my life, who do I go to? What is my solution for this particular area of my life? And whenever you look at different areas, I like to separate. I go back to my like yoga brain, and I think like, all right, physically, what do I do? Like, what can I do to get help? Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, philosophically, philanthropically, like just going through the different aspects of wellness that are important to me, and just saying like, okay, if I feel like I really need to go for a run, or if I really need to go work out, where can I go? All right, I got a Planet Fitness membership, or I can just go right outside. Who can babysit my kid for an hour? And just knowing. And if you don't know, just start looking, which makes me think that there's an opportunity for a fitness center that has daycare. I don't know about you, if you have another room in your yoga studio that you can toss kids into for an hour.
So that was part of our plan. I was supposed to have the week that we closed, the following week, I was going to put up the wall between the two studio spaces. I have 1,100 square feet of a full studio space. And it was so that way we could have moms or caregivers in one room, and then the children having their own class next door at an affordable price, because there's nothing offered like that around here. And unfortunately, we can't afford to put the wall in at this point, and we need it for the social distancing. And people aren't super comfortable bringing their little places yet. So, but that is waiting when the pandemic lifts and the timing is right, because yes, you need something that, like, the other thing is, like, if you have that rate limiting factor, like for many years, we couldn't afford a gym. I was working at a yoga studio in exchange for free classes. So I walked, like my husband would park the car farther away and I would have to go walk to get the car. Or like my exercise right now is often walking my daughter to school, coming back, walking to the studio, finding other ways to get it if that's what you actually need. And some days I need to take the car. So the slight half-mile walk, but some days that's what I need to do because I don't feel well. So back to the whole idea of all these different ways that you can get yourself taken care of as you need to.
Yeah. And it is in no means like all or nothing, just little tiny steps to get the head above water, whatever the phrase is.
But you're recognizing that, and I did a post about this recently because I think it's so important. Nobody is going to prioritize you. If you're waiting for someone to say, oh no, I got this, you go do it, you're going to be waiting a while. Maybe you've got that great partner, but they're not going to be able to meet all the needs that way regardless. You have to be the one that says enough. And like, that's what I was finding in the journaling. Like, you can't keep complaining about this anymore. I've got to do something about it. I've got to stand in my power and get what I need and find find the one thing and then follow the trail of all the people around me who can support me to get this one thing I need.
That's beautiful. And I similarly have said, like, you got to be the hero of your own story. Yeah. Just like you said, there's no knight in shining armor coming to say, you know what, honey, go take a nap. I'm going to wash the dishes.
And it may just be that you have to be like, hey, can I go take a nap and you wash the dishes? And they're like, yeah, sure. But you gotta have that communication.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the boundary, right? I'm going to call my friend and be like, I need 5 minutes. Do you have 5 minutes? You're communicating what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've even weirded out my friend and called her and been like, hey, are you in like a mentally okay space? Cause I gotta say something. And then she's like, yeah, you okay? And I'm like, oh yeah. I just, blah, blah, blah. Just wanted to make sure, cause she had a newborn and I didn't want to be that person. But, so wrapping up this, cause I feel like we could talk all day.
Absolutely.
about having our care group, because it just goes on and on and on.
I want to throw something in about the calls too, is that do voice notes. Like, then they can listen when they have a chance. Like, hey, I'm going to send you a 5-minute voice note or a 3-minute voice note, because then you get it out and it's out there, but they can take it when they need it. A couple of friends and I have been doing voice notes, and that's like life-changing. And then you feel like you're having a conversation too when you hear it. I
love that. I'm so tired of texting. And then nobody answers their phone because it's always on mute. I think that's a great idea. I'm going to start doing that with my friends. Dang, that's a good one. Thank you.
I used to feel weird about it. I don't feel weird about it anymore.
No, because it's like texting, but we don't have time to text. So there it is. You just blah, 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 blah. And then they get back to it whenever they can. Brilliant. Great idea. Stealing that. Okay. So that right there's a great first step. But what I like to do to wrap up is to ask, like, if there's a mom listening who wants to just take one first step, what do you think? What would your advice be to that mom?
Today, take a moment and figure out what you need today. Like, just for today, whether you're going to the bathroom or whether you're sitting here listening to us, like, take a moment, take the pause, everything can wait, and figure out, what do you need today? And just do that.
Yeah.
Take any step that you can possibly get yourself closer to. And it may just be like recognizing, I'm tired, this is what I need. Or just keep it simple. One little thing at a time. What do you need for the day?
That's great. I like that a lot. And it could be something as small as unsubscribing if you have too many emails coming in, it's overwhelming, or blocking someone on Facebook, because guess what? There's no rules. You can block whoever the hell you want. I think we all learned that this year.
Sitting down. Sit your ass down, right?
Yes. Yeah, just do one thing. I would add on to that, call somebody that you love. And if you have something to say and you want to vent, ask. But I think just feeling a little bit more connected is a really nice first step, especially if you're the kind of person that normally doesn't, and you feel like you're alone and you're doing all this alone. Thinking about picking up the phone. But I think that was a really cool talk. Usually these are around 30 minutes, but whenever we're rolling, we just keep going. And this was a really cool conversation. I hope moms listening got something coherent out of it. But thank you so much. Cheers to a nice conversation this morning. This sacred space coffee mug. I see you.
I know. I love it. It's my favorite.
Do you sell those in the store?
I don't actually. I had a friend make them for me, and I want to sell them. My other favorite says, it's like one about like you don't have to control how the things are getting manifested. You just have to control what it is. Like it's let the universe do that
That's
thing.
A mug?
Yeah, it's the Love Bomb Company. I highly recommend their little sayings.
Oh man, my other coffee mug says like my birthstone is a coffee bean. We're on different mug wavelengths.
I have another one that says mama too, but I was like, I don't want to use the mama one today. I gotta work a lot today. I gotta be businesswoman.
Tell us about your business. What's your Instagram? Where's your studio? What do you want to tell us so we can promote all the awesome stuff you do? We
are in Astoria, Queens, for anyone who's local. We also offer some things online. It's Sacred Space Astoria. Our Instagram is @sacredspace_Astoria. We work with everyone in all stages of life. We work from birth to death, which a lot of people are like, I do end of life work, which didn't actually come up today. But we offer yoga classes. We offer Reiki, which is absolutely part of my self-care. We're offering a Reiki training this weekend in person, which I'm really excited about. And if you don't know what Reiki is and you like energy work, I highly recommend it. Anything else about the studio? The goal of the studio is a lot of this, what we were talking about. It's learning to feel what's happening in your body, then once you're aware of what's happening in your body, then taking the steps and trusting that what you're feeling is the thing that you need to take care of, and taking actions from that place so you can be more connected in your life. That's beautiful. And then tell me, because I feel like this might be something that's holding people back, do you notice wearing a mask in the studio while practicing yoga is restrictive at all to your breathing? I don't find it's restricted to my breathing, but I'll be 100% honest that I've in the last month been like, fuck this thing. I'm so tired of it. So I don't think it's restrictive to my breathing, but it's definitely better without it, right? Like, and my yoga practice is mostly restorative. For in that case, absolutely not. And if you've never tried restorative yoga and you are feeling the stress, find a class. You can get a little nervous system regulation. Can't say more than that. Super chill yoga. Held. It's the practice of being held, right? Let the floor hold you, let the props hold you, let the teacher hold you, because we're not held enough. That's true. I love it. Thank you so much, Kim, for spending and sharing your time with me and your expertise and knowledge. And I hope to see you in person. I can't wait to have our next conversation. I would love to talk more about Reiki. I'd love to talk more about end of life care, because I think that is another hard but important conversation to have. And anybody else who has questions for me or Kim, feel free to put them in the comment section and we can get to them anytime that you watch this episode. So until next time, my friends, stay strong, stay caffeinated or decaffeinated, and I will see you in the group. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Thank you.